The Moza CS steering wheel is designed with one sole purpose, and that is to bring you a high quality steering wheel with a low price tag. The CS wheel is the cheapest wheel rim on offer from Moza at the time of this review, and quite an important factor to know while trying to understand where this wheel fits into Moza's growing ecosystem is that both the GS and RS wheels cost double the amount of this CS wheel. I'll talk about the cost in more detail further on, but this is an important factor to know from the beginning. But before we get too excited by the cut price cost of this wheel, we do need to look at all the pros and cons to see where corners have been cut and why this wheel is so much cheaper. And before I go any further, I just wanted to say thanks to Moza for supplying this wheel for this review, and I wanted to reassure you guys that the fact that this wheel was supplied for a review doesn't affect my opinion or this review in any way. So let's jump straight into the look and feel of this CS steering wheel to see exactly what you get. And I do have to say first impressions are pretty good. The moment you pick the wheel up, you can tell there are high quality materials in use. The wheel is relatively weighty, especially when compared to other steering wheels within this price range, and a lot of that is due to the amount of metal that has been used. The faceplate itself is brushed aluminium, while the rear of the body is also constructed from aluminium. Even the two rotary encoders that are on the wheel are built in metal, and so are the shifter mounts on the rear. In fact, the only real plastic that you'll find on this wheel is in the push buttons themselves. Moving on, the outer rim of the wheel is finished in microfiber leather that feels stiff but comfortable to hold. This isn't genuine leather, but it feels good nonetheless. And the choice of leather over Alcantara that was used on the GS steering wheel means you can easily race without gloves using this CS wheel, which I do appreciate. The leather and metal frame feel incredibly tactile and sturdy, and on first inspection, the CS wheel looks and feels like a wheel that could take a good number of years worth of punishment. It does lack a little bit of character in its overall aesthetic, looking, well, a bit plain, but the design is solid and includes pretty much everything you could want from a circular wheel at this price. And before I look at features in depth and how this wheel performs, I'm going to touch on the price point. So the Moza Racing CS steering wheel costs $279 directly from Moza itself, or it can be found at some other retailers for slightly more. I'll leave links in the description below so you can go and check this wheel out. As I mentioned, at $279, this wheel is half the cost of the $500 GS and RS steering wheels. And when looking outside of the Moza brand, I'd put it in a similar category to the Fanatec BMW GT2 wheel, and that comes in at around $350. And even then, it doesn't have the same feature set as this CS wheel does. At $279, that means you can pick up a complete direct drive wheel setup along with the Moza R9 and the SRP pedals for under $900. That may still seem pricey for a racing wheel setup, but you do get a very good direct drive wheelbase for that price. And as I've mentioned, I've dropped a link in the description below for this steering wheel, so you can go and check it out yourself. With the price covered, let's look at the features of this CS wheel in more detail. So on the front of the wheel itself, you have 6 push buttons. As I mentioned earlier, these are one of the only plastic items on the wheel, but they do appear to be the exact same push buttons that are found on the more premium GS and RS wheels, just finished in black. The buttons themselves feel very nice to use and activate, and the click is very positive, which is important when making quick inputs during a race. As with most racing wheels, these push buttons can be programmed inside your sim of choice to control whatever in-game functions you desire. There are a bunch of stickers included with the wheel, so if you don't like the all black look or want an easy reminder of the function of each button, you can easily apply them. Across the top of the wheel, you'll see the signature Moza RGB light strip. This is identical as far as I can tell to the one in my GS wheel, and that brings the same positives and negatives. You can customize the color of the RGB lights and the timing in the pit house software that's included, but my biggest issue with this rev indicator remains the same. The diffused plastic that sits over the top makes the leading edge of the rev bar blurry, and it also adds a strange gradient to different colors when they're next to each other. For example, I like to run the F1 style rev light pattern of green, red and blue, but with the diffused plastic cover, this creates a strange yellow and pink gradient colour where the red bleeds into the two adjacent colours. This is only a very small issue and one that many probably wouldn't even agree with. I can see that Moza are using this approach as a slight point of difference compared to other brands, but I definitely do prefer the approach of individually lit rev lights. Along with the 6 push buttons, there are also 2 rotary encoders. Each one rotates infinitely from left to right, allowing you to increase and decrease settings in game. They both also feature a push function, so they can act as 2 extra push buttons. The rotary encoders in particular are fantastic. They're constructed from aluminium and feel incredibly weighty to use. The click that is in between each activation as you turn the dial allows you to easily know how many times you've adjusted the encoder. In fact, to be honest, I prefer these encoders over the ones found on the more premium GS wheel. In addition to the buttons and encoders, there are also 2 analog knobs towards the top of the wheel. These can be configured to act as up, down, left and right inputs and are very useful for navigating menus in-game. Much like the encoders, these 2 knobs also feature a push functionality, so you can configure that as another button input. Although I don't really use this in-game, I find myself pushing the knob in a direction when trying to push it straight down. Flipping the wheel over, you have 2 magnetic shifters, and these are constructed from forged carbon fibre and both look and feel stunning. The edges are beveled nicely so they feel good to touch, and the forged carbon fibre is just such a cool aesthetic. In terms of functionality, both shifters feature a magnetic contactless activation, and they feel positive to use, but are slightly lighter to pull than the shifters on the premium wheels. I feel like weaker magnets have been used, but it's probably more to do with the fact that the shifters have a longer arm on them compared to the GS shifters. Both shifters are relatively loud to use, meaning they could become annoying to those in adjoining rooms, but there are 2 small silencing pads included, and these reduce the noise a little bit but not fully. And then there's the unique Moza Racing quick release design. This is the same as the one found on the other Moza wheels and is quite simply fantastic. It has a contactless design, meaning no need for USB connections, and allows you to attach and detach your steering wheel incredibly quickly. You simply pull the quick release towards the wheel and then pull your wheel away from the base, and then to reattach it, align the quick release and push it on. I can't praise this quick release enough, as it's quite simply the best on the market at this price range. Although I would have liked the cool gold quick release that is included on the GS wheel, as that looks much nicer than the black on this one. I do need me a little bit of bling when I'm racing. So when I hook at the CS wheel up to the rig, everything sort of clicks into place, and the wheel feels good when attached to my R9 wheelbase. The leather feels good in your hands, and as I said, no need to wear gloves with this wheel. All of the buttons are placed in relatively accessible locations, allowing me to activate buttons without removing my hands too much. The only inputs I had to remove my hands for were the 2 encoders towards the bottom of the wheel, and I had to adjust them slightly to reach the 2 lower push buttons. The shifters themselves feel great in the heat of a race, and you certainly won't be double shifting or missing shifts with these. Overall, the wheelbase performs as well as it looks and is ideal as a road car, rally, drift or GT style wheel. I did touch on compatibility a little bit earlier, but the CS wheel is only compatible with Moza wheelbases due to the quick release and Bluetooth technology. You also can't use it with consoles, as the Moza ecosystem is currently only PC based. And with everything said and done, would I recommend the steering wheel, and should you consider buying it? Well, quite simply, this is a great entry level steering wheel. The fact that the price is around half that of the more premium GS and RS wheels, while keeping a high level of build quality, is quite frankly really impressive. There really haven't been many corners cut, more just a case of some additional functionality removed. This is really just a slimmed down version of the RS wheel. If you're either a console sim racer, or you already have either of the more premium Moza wheels, you don't really have any reason to pick this up. But if you're looking at purchasing a completely new sim racing wheel setup, and you want a wheel that's very versatile and doesn't lock you just into GT or F1 style racing, I'd highly recommend this wheel along with the R9 wheelbase. Again, I'll drop the links to this product in the description below, and if you found this review useful, smash that like button and let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like this wheel? Do you not like this wheel? Do you want something a bit more formula based rather than a round wheel? Let me know below, and subscribe if you want more sim racing content in the future. But for now guys, I will see you out on track.